All right. Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning, and it's hard to believe, but it's the 9th of December, 2021. Welcome as you come in. I hope everything's going well for everyone. I'm definitely getting better and should be all the way back up to normal here in just another day or two. So, I did that information on the Thanksgiving hymns in the Dead Sea Scrolls a few days ago. Hello, everyone. 5 by 5, great. I'm glad to hear that. And I saw some questions that I thought I should answer, and I want to give you some information. Before I go any further, in the information box, the description box below, are two links. One to a website that hosts the translations of a lot of the Dead Sea Scrolls by Giza Vermes, who was one of the original scholars that were looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, he had ties to the Bibliothèque Nationale, Bibliothèque École, to Israeli Antiquities Authorities, and he had, in my estimation, some reasons to not be forthright on everything. However, it's still good information, so I've included it. And there as well is the translation for the Thanksgiving hymn that I referred to the other day and that I read some excerpts from. Let me give you a little background before I go any further. Walter asked me which Thanksgiving hymn it was because there are several in there, and you have to look at these things from the codes that the scholars put on the different manuscripts, the different scrolls. So I want to show everybody this book here. This is my Dead Sea Scroll book by Michael Wise and some other authors. Michael Wise helped Professor Eisenman, who I have talked about quite a bit on a lot of his other work, and I'm going to talk about this in a minute. But if you want a book on the Dead Sea Scrolls, this is a good one, and you need to read it yourself. And as you can see, it's like James, the brother of Jesus. It's very thick, but you can just look at each one. It looks like we're having problems staying uploaded. The one problem I have with it is it does not give you the Hebrew in it, the way Eisenman's books did, which you can see here. Not just the English translation, but the Hebrew as well, which I consider, for my purposes, to be very important. But that's okay. This will work quite well. You can get this at Amazon. I think Barnes & Noble carries it. There's several others, so you can go to a lot of these, okay? What I want to tell Walter and anybody that was wondering I might have to redo this dang thing. I tell you what, the internet is just, it's getting worse all the time. He asked me which Thanksgiving hymn it is. And Walter and anybody else who wants to know, you've got to go to 1QH. That's 1 Quebec Hotel. That's the number that the scholars used for the Thanksgiving hymns that I was reading excerpts from the other day. Now there are other ones, but they're not the same thing. You'll see one that says Hymns of Thanksgiving, which is 4Q433, and you'll see another one that is, let's see if I can find it here. Yeah, I've lost it here. I did have it outlined, but it's not here now. I can't find it. If I took a few minutes, I could. But at any rate, there are several Thanksgiving hymns in there. The one that I was reading from was the one 1QH. That's 1 Quebec Hotel, okay? And then what they've done over the years is they've found some other scrolls, Thanksgiving scrolls, and as you'll see when you read in the scholars' translations, there are places where there are no words. Well, those get filled in as they find out or they locate more scrolls so that they can fill in the empty spots. And that's what I'm going to show you today. But at any rate, Walter, that's the one you want is 1 Quebec Hotel, 1QH. And that'll give you the one that I was reading the excerpts from the other day. So this is a really important book for anybody that wants it. Why am I showing you all this? You know, it's really frustrating that I'm just trying to show people questions that they should be asking themselves and not necessarily go along with the status quo, whatever it is. I don't care whether people believe in the Virgin Mary. I don't care whether they believe in Nimrod. I don't care whether they believe in Jesus Christ. I don't care if they believe in, well, Buddha's not a god, but anyway, I don't care what you believe in. The important thing is that you can defend your religion, your spiritual insights with some logic and reason, because if it's just mere wagging its tail, that it's God, okay? So you have to have more than just a belief. Belief doesn't cut it. I don't care what they tell you in church. I don't care what you read in the New Testament, because belief isn't it. Okay, it just isn't. Faith is, because it moves you to do something. And so I'm not ever going to tell anybody anytime anymore. I'm going to try to refrain from it. Like I made the statement the other day. I'm very, very, I come down real hard on institutionalized traditional Christianity and rabbinic Judaism, because it's so controlled, and it has been for 2,000 years. You want to believe it? That's your business. Okay? That's fine. But you've got to be able to back up what you think, what you believe. So, rather than reading what other people said Jesus said, rather than reading books that were put together decades, if not centuries after the fact, based on hearsay, word of mouth, or just institutionalized propaganda and bias, go look at what they were talking about historically. That is why I read the Thanksgiving hymn the other day, at least the 3 excerpts from it I did. Okay? That's what it's about. These are the people that were living at the time. And I've explained in the Eisenman series why I believe that the teacher of righteousness, at least during the time of Paul, just previous to that, and also at the destruction of the Second Temple just before that, was James. And there's a lot of evidence to show that, if you don't listen to the scholars and the institutionalized Christians that had an agenda to protect. If you want to believe that again, like I said, that's fine. It's better to believe that than to believe in the devil, okay? Although sometimes I wonder if they're not the same thing. But the reason why I do what I do is to give you the information so that you can make a better informed decision. Trusting God to guide you. Maybe you're at a place where you have to believe in the Virgin Mary. That's fine with me. I don't care. But if you're actually searching for the truth, God won't leave you in one place. He'll take you to another. As long as you're honest with yourself and that you don't set up men and idols in your heart. Well, you'll say, well, Roy, men wrote this. Well, men wrote the scriptures too. People say it's infallible. Well, I've already shown that it is not. I had a very long Twitter explanation on that the other day with someone, and I put some of it on YouTube. But that's not the issue. The issue is God can even use fallible materials to bring you to another place. But the point is, you can't be so dogmatic in your doctrine that you're not willing to admit that maybe you don't have it quite right. As I've often said, everyone wants to be right. Very few want to get right. So is this a chastisement to everybody on here? No. No. I'm trying to explain that I'm not your gatekeeper, and I never want you to think that that's what I'm here for. I'm not. I'm here to address issues that you should at least be cognizant of, aware of, and take a look at them. I deny Jesus. See, that's what I mean. You have no idea what you're talking. You don't even know who Jesus is. And this is why I'm very seriously thinking about just stopping everything. I got a question the other day, and I'm not going to get into the details. I don't even remember the circumstances, but somebody asked me a question on something, and I don't know if it was in the chat or in a text I got or whatever, but how in the world am I supposed to answer something within 140 characters? It doesn't work. And even on here, when I'm getting distracted by all of these other questions, and yet I'm held to account for it. Fine. I'm giving you the information to find it yourself. And as far as Jesus goes, you better find out who he really is, because what you've been told for 2,000 years, you got to make sure that you got it right. So again, Walter, the Thanksgiving hymn that I'm talking about is One Quebec hotel. That's 1QH. All right. I've shown you how this is. It's all in English, so I have a problem with this. I can't look at the Hebrew. I've got to get another book to do that. And this is how I like it when it comes in, is like this. I'll show you all there. You see you've got the English and you've got the Hebrew. So you can compare it. And sometimes I make my own translations because everybody's going to look at it quite differently. And that's okay. The important thing is that you're looking. All right? So you people that accuse me of not believing in Jesus, man, I don't know where you've been. What I'm telling you is that the Jesus that you've been taught for 2,000 years may be a problem. And that's why you need to get back to the original documents, one of which he wrote for himself. Himself, he wrote it. And I told you about that the other night, and it's in the description box below. It's the second link. I was going to come on maybe in the next day or so and sit down and record a video where I read through the entire Thanksgiving psalm, the Thanksgiving hymn, that I took the excerpts out the other night because it's so charged. When you read that, his words come through to you very much differently, very much more powerfully than the supposed quotes in the New Testament do, because they're coming from him in the Dead Sea Scrolls. They're his actual written words. You're not getting what somebody else is interpreting that he said decades later or by word of mouth. You get it right there. Now, there are problems with the scrolls. There are gaps in it because of the age and the deterioration. But as I said, as we get more information, we can fill those gaps in, and the description box is one of those. Even though it came out in 1957, I think, shortly after the scrolls were there, they did a really good job on keeping up to date with the other scrolls that were found, and they could add in to those empty spots. Let me show you the empty spots I'm talking about so that you'll be aware of what I'm dealing with here. In a translation, as you can see here, okay, you'll get these spaces because the scroll has been damaged or it's faded too much where they can't figure out the word. Well, what happens is they find another scroll that fills in the space. Okay? That's how it works. But it's lagging behind for two reasons. One, because they don't want the truth out, and it's being hidden in places like the Vatican Library, which I discussed the other day, or in some other scholarly institutional place because they want to control the society and they want to keep the status quo, right? That's the one big reason. Or they really haven't found the one that could fill it in yet. But the first one that I just said, they want to keep you in the dark, is the real reason. All right? Lady Lion, I think you need to go away. Why are you even here? I'm not here to spoon feed you. I'm here to give you information so that you don't get taken advantage of and led down a primrose path. If you want to, though, I suppose that's your choice. Go believe in a little yellow wagging-tailed dog somewhere. Yeah, I'm really upset about this right now. So I was going to come on and I was going to read those Thanksgiving hymns to you. But you know what? It's in the description box below. It's the second link. It's very nicely done. It gives you some of the background, and you can read it for yourself. And what I would suggest you do is close yourself in a room where you're not being interfered by any noise, anything that'll distract you. You say a little prayer. Deceived by God? Yeah, which God? That's the big question. Because there are a lot of religions out there, and they all say they're right. So you tell me how you know it's right just because you believe it, or you get a little feeling, emotional feeling. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. And the Shroud of Turin is evidence, and the Dead Sea Scrolls are evidence. All right? Historical evidence. Yeah, like Abraham, Lady Lion. Like Abraham. Like Jacob. Like Gideon. Like David. Like Solomon. Like Hosea. But you don't know that because you don't study. Lady Lion, everybody knows that. I've been talking about my history all along. So why don't you go away? Are there any, probably not any mods on here right now. If there's a mod on here, you can throw Lady Lion off. She's just a troublemaker. Now you see why. Okay, I'm done with you. We're going to get rid of you. If I can figure out how to do it. Yeah, it's not going to let me. That's the problem with my phone. I'll probably just throw you off later because you're nothing but a distraction, and it won't let me do it. Rats. Yeah, it won't let me do it. But I'll get you later. All right. So I was going to read it, and I decided it would take too long to read through that. Plus, I probably wouldn't be able to convey to you the emotions that come along with it and the insights if I read it myself. Plus, it'd take a long time. All right? So go in the description box and read the Thanksgiving hymns. It's a second link. All right? And and also the first link there are a good portion of the Dead Sea Scrolls by Vermes and Sukenick. All right, and every translation is a little different because different people see different things depending upon their experience and their training, and so it gets questionable sometimes, but the spirit of it's there. You'll definitely see the difference. All right. All right. Well, that's all I've got for you. You've got the Dead Sea Scrolls down below in the description box so that I'm no longer your gatekeeper. It's up to you. You find it. All right? You find it. If God's telling you, like I said, to believe that he's a little yellow dog wagging its tail, that's fine. You just go right ahead and do it. All right? If God tells you to like he did with Abraham came out of Sumer where human sacrifice was real common, and then he gets out there after God tells him to leave and says, guess what, Abraham, you're going to have to kill your firstborn son by Sarah. What? I thought you just said that I left there because of that. Well, now I've changed my mind. You're going to have to kill your son and offer him to me as a burnt sacrifice. Well, guess what? Abraham went and did it. Whether you think it's right or not isn't the issue. The point is God will lead you along a certain way depending upon what your capabilities are. So if you believe you need to go on, outside, I wouldn't suggest doing this, but if you think God's told you to strip naked and go out in your front yard and offer prayers to him naked in public, by all means, go do it. But before you do those things, I'd suggest that you do a little study, because there are a lot of deceiving spirits out there. And you'll say, well, Roy, you're a deceiving spirit. Gee, you were a polygamist, you were a cop, you were a soldier. You don't believe in the Bible being the infallible word of God. It's because I've searched it out. Am I 100% right on everything? Absolutely not. But I'm also not your gatekeeper, and I've never claimed to be. I've explained to you how the cultural differences, the language differences, and how you have been taught to believe things are totally different from the way they really are in many instances. We are in a time right now where deception is rampant. It is beyond a pandemic. It infects every single corner of our lives and of the world. And if you don't have the faith in God to challenge your faith once in a while to see if you're really on the right path, you got a problem. The early apostles that you called the apostles, James in particular, and Jesus himself, their words in these, in some of them, not the entire corpus, but in some of these. And I gave you one, the Thanksgiving hymns at 1QH, 1Q Hotel. If you can get this book, this doesn't have the hymns in it, but it'll show you some things. So that's all I got. I'm kind of glad I'm not reading through the whole thing today. That'd taken probably an hour to an hour and a half, and that's just too much. Any other questions? I guess not. A lot of the Bible's very good. It's a guidebook. Um, I was going to do a video on all of the inconsistencies and the contradictions, but you can do that yourselves. As I said, I'm not going to be a gatekeeper anymore. I didn't mean to be that before. There's a scripture and it says, "By their fruit you shall know them." And a good tree can't bring forth bad fruit, and a bad tree can't bring forth good fruit. If we have been a Christian civilization for 2,000 years, and it's supposed to have guided us in such a great way, why don't you explain the wars, the political intrigue, the Spanish Inquisition, the hanging of women for being witches in Salem and in Europe, the Irish potato famine, the 70 Years' War, the Crusades, the denigration of women, the gargoyles on the churches, the Roman architecture throughout the Western world. It's not as pretty as you might think. It's best to get back. Paul, as I said the other day, was an opportunist. He was an infiltrator to destroy the Messianic movement, and he was an opportunist to make money and to have control. And he and James were butting heads all the time. James, the brother of Jesus. James and Jesus had some difficulties between them. You'll even see that in the Thanksgiving hymns, and of course, it says so in other areas of the Bible. What I'm saying is, read it from the people who were actually there, not to those who are writing about it decades after the events and aren't even the ones who were there. The exceptions in the Bible, in the New Testament, about the ones who were there and saw it happen: James, Jude, Peter. That's it. Luke wasn't an apostle. Matthew was supposed to be, and John. But those were written after decades after the events, using another document that I've talked about before called the Q document, which is short for a German word meaning source. They weren't written by the actual people that were there at the time. And if you think that, that's fine. I don't care, because there are a lot of good things that you learn from those writings. All right, I agree with that. But why don't you lengthen your stride a little bit and go see what the original people who were there in the time period of Jesus, James, and John, and what they said, and compare it to what you believe now. And if your faith is too weak that you're afraid to do that, then don't tell me that I'm not living up to your expectations of what I should believe in. Most people don't know what Nazarenes are, but thank you for bringing it up, the Nazarite covenant. Yeah, most people don't know. They think it's a place which didn't exist at Jesus' time. Yeah. Well, I'm not here to talk about the world situation today. It's a mess. They're coming for you and your kids. And a lot of the churches that you put so much faith and trust in are telling you to bring your children to Moloch and offer them up as a sacrifice. And if you don't believe me, go listen to the Pope. Go listen to the Mormon president. Go listen to any number of these church leaders and hear what they tell you. Franklin Graham. Ebionites, yeah, Ebionites and Nazarenes. Yeah, those words are in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Yeah. And most people don't know what they're talking about. Hopefully you do. Hopefully you know what Ebionites are, right? And what the meek really are and the poor. And they're not what you think, right? Yeah, they're not what you think. Don't throw away the baby with the bathwater. There's nothing wrong with you using these institutions to go to offer up your own personal prayers and sacrifices and oblations and all of that. That's good. Just don't think you're going to get much truth out of them because they're controlled. Just like your politicians right now are being told that they can't say anything bad about the VAXX, right? Where they'll suffer some type of censorship or worse. Some people have died over this. Not politicians yet, but that'll probably be coming. Just like they're controlled, it's exactly how it is in most of these institutions. You're not going to be saved by going to church. You're going to be saved by hungering and thirsting after righteousness and loving God. The two primary purposes of Jesus. Love thy neighbor as the two great commandments are love thy neighbor as thyself and love God. Upon these are all the law and the prophets. And then James said it the same way. And he said, the laws of righteousness and piety. Love the Lord thy God and love thy fellow man. All the rest is commentary. And a lot of it will lead you astray if you're not careful because it's got 2,000 years of interpretation, mistranslation, and outright deceit. This is how you check it. This is how you check if what you're being told is right. At least if you're a Christian or a Jew. This is how you find out if you're right. And there are even some problems there. I see things with James that bother me sometimes. But primarily what we know about James is from other people's interpretation of what they saw, and I've explained that before. For instance, celibacy and chastity are not the same thing. All right? This is just an example. All right? That's all I got. I talked long enough, almost a half an hour. Again, in the description box below, I've given you, so that you don't need to have me as a gatekeeper. I've given you the links to the Dead Sea Scrolls by Vermes and Sukenick, and they're very good. And I've given you the separate link to the Thanksgiving hymns or the Thanksgiving psalms that I'm telling you that Jesus himself wrote or dictated, which explains why there's some differences in the original texts with the formation of the letters. Even if he didn't write it all, he dictated it all. All right? Thanks, everybody. I hope you have a good day the rest of the day. Well, thank you, Scott. Back, I appreciate that. Yeah, I do, man, because I see the world getting destroyed, and yet I know it has to happen. The thing I don't understand, and I'm going to be honest with you here, okay? Even though the story of David, when he numbered Israel, the plague started on the people, and the people started dying, and he, the leader, the king, had to repent of what he did before God stopped the plague. Why God goes after the little people, I don't know. We have those eruptions in Indonesia. We have the situation in the Canary Islands. We have hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes. And it's always the little people that get smashed. I want to know why D.C. hasn't sunk into the Atlantic Ocean. London, New York, San Francisco. Yeah, San Francisco's been hit a couple of times pretty hard. The evil always seems to get away. And I do ask God why all the time. And maybe you should too. And maybe if you ask that this nonsense stop of the little people being smashed, and that God turn his wrath on those who are really responsible for everything that's happening, you notice they're saying now that they want everybody to be hooked up to this hive mind so that they can make sure that war isn't going to happen anymore. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the little people that are out there trying to survive every day that are starting the wars. It's the very people that want to put that control on you that have started the wars that we've seen in history. And yet they're trying to blame it on you again. Why? Because you're not reading. You're not studying. You believe the lies that you've been told for thousands of years. Because it's easy that way. It's what everybody else is doing. Step outside your narrow, confined space. You'll be exposed to a lot of things that could be error. But that's what this is all about anyway, so that you can learn the difference. Well, you're not going to learn the difference by sitting in your house telling yourself how wonderful your belief system is and that your faith is rock solid in an absolutely true spiritual system or religious system. You don't know that. I don't know that. I think the difference between some of you, and you all know who I'm talking about, some of them made some rather nasty remarks here today. I think the difference between myself and them is that I'm willing to go to places like this. Because I've seen deception at all levels amongst people that I thought I could trust, both ecclesiastical leaders, political leaders. And I'm going to tell you something. By and large, if they consider you a threat for asking a question, they are going to smash you. So I suggest that you do some really good, honest study on your own. I'm probably going to start turning off the comments and the chat in these things because it's caused me some difficulty, and I'm really getting to the point where I don't know if it's worth it. Find out for yourself. Stop listening to those who want to be your mediators, your intercessors. And show God that you're really interested in what really happened. Who chose the books of the Bible as it's presently constituted? Principally the Council of Nicaea, run by Constantine and Epiphanius. And a lot of what they chose doesn't match up. Y'all take care out here.